All right, guys, I just want to welcome back to the Everything College Football podcast. Today, me and Nick here, we're doing a preview and prediction for a crucial matchup in the SEC going down Saturday on ABC, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time between Oklahoma and Alabama. Crimson Tide, 5.5-point home favorites, 46.5 that total. Getting things started with the Oklahoma offense on that Crimson Tide defense. For Oklahoma this year, this is an offense that's been incredibly battle-tested. They had to go a couple of weeks without John Mateer, really just 1 week, right? And he came back against Texas, wasn't very good. I think that hand injury was still bothering him significantly. He muscled up though, Nick, and he continued to play and fight on, only missing one game with that broken hand, which is very impressive. And I think that his best football was clearly behind him because that injury was definitely lingering and affecting him. He stepped up against Tennessee, though, helped lead resilient offense to a nice victory on the road. They lost to they lost to Ole Miss. That is back in Norman. And so the last couple of weeks, they've had some tough challenges, right? So this is nothing new for Oklahoma. They're going to be facing another tough physical football team. For Mateer, though, you look at the stats, 244 pass yards per game, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks, 306 yards rushing, and 6 scores. A lot of momentum was derailed with that hand injury. A week off to get ready, though, for this game. I expect Mateer to return to his peak form for this contest on the road. This run game's been a big problem for Oklahoma, right? Because the offensive line has been very sluggish. They've been mixing and matching, doing a lot of different things to try and get this group in sync. And I think you've seen it really come alive against Tennessee for 192 yards, 5.5 yards per attempt. They weren't very good against Ole Miss until that fourth quarter. They finally started to get something going on the ground, but it was a little bit too little, too late. Now you're going up against the Alabama team whose run defense has had problems this year. The stat sheet has been solid the last 2 games against South Carolina and LSU. Those are 2 of the worst rushing attacks in the conference, though. It's not exactly an accurate measure of success, I would think, especially since Mateer is going to look to run the football, upwards of 20 times in this game. He's very solid in a phone booth. He can make guys miss and pick up a couple of extra yards. But Alabama's had a big problem this year when it comes to allowing big run plays, and Oklahoma's been slowly chopping away at being able to execute those, especially since they've had Xavier Robinson getting a lot of touches. Torrey Blaylock, a freshman's been playing a little bit more. Very intriguing matchup here, Nick. Oklahoma's rushing attack, it's nothing to write home about, but I think it is slowly getting better going up against the run defense that might also slowly getting better. Who is it favored?
I think it certainly potentially favors Alabama here. This is a run defense that I think is improving throughout the season and looking better. They looked good against LSU, looked against South Carolina this past week, and they found themselves improving as the season goes on. They looked solid against Vanderbilt as well, which is a good rushing attack with a running quarterback in Diego Pavia. I think this defense has been really good for Alabama. 17.2 points per game, 4.3 yards per attempt on the ground, 11 rushing touchdowns given up on the season. Here, when you look at this rushing attack for Oklahoma, 3.93 yards per attempt, 16 touchdowns on the ground. It's not great, right? You could certainly expect more. Mateer obviously has a say in the rushing attack, 300 yards for him, 6 scores on the ground. Torrey Baylock and Xavier Robinson each have 4 scores. Robinson 330 yards, and then Baylock has 400 yards on the ground. They're not great at running the ball here, but when they can get themselves in a groove, it certainly relieves some of that pressure on Mateer as a passer, who has shown some struggles at time. I know he's been banged up a little bit, right? Obviously, so that's certainly factoring into it. About 2,000 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks for Mateer through the air. And we'll talk about that passing attack in a second here. This is a potential matchup that favors Alabama. They've been really good against the run. They finally found a way to get some pressure here. I think that Kane Womack's been dialing up pressure at the right time, dialing up those opportunities to get in the backfield. You've seen a lot of guys step up like Yanze Pierre, who's been really good at getting tackles for loss, 31 total tackles for him, 9.5 TFL's, 6 sacks. Pierre's been really good in the backfield getting pressure. Early on, LT Overton has been really solid as well. 29 total tackles, 6 TFLs, 4 sacks. He's been getting production in the backfield when necessary. So those guys have been strong. They get some production out of their linebackers in Jefferson and Lawson as well. Both of them have a couple of TFLs. So they're finding a way to put pressure in the backfield. I think that's a clear recipe for Alabama, right? Is stuff the run, force Oklahoma to throw the ball, put them in positions where they got to throw the ball early and often, put them behind the sticks on first down. Do not let them get first down rushing opportunities. If Oklahoma can get 5-6 yards per attempt, on first down, that will certainly be a big boost for the Sooners offense heading into a hostile environment.
Yeah, and I think the edge rushers for Alabama have been progressing. LT Overton, Yanze Pierre, who's been playing great the last couple of weeks, going up against a tackle duo of Michael Fosi and Derek Simmons that aren't all that great. I think the interior offensive line's been pretty solid this year when it comes to pass protection. So I think Oklahoma's got an edge on the interior. The tackles, though, are definitely going to have it up against them. You talked about that passing attack. What are we going to see from them? Because it hasn't been great. And again, I think Mateer's injury certainly had something to do with that. He also made some boneheaded decisions against Texas, but he's protected the ball for the most part the last three SEC games. The pass game production hasn't been all that great. They have guys that can certainly do damage downfield. Isaiah Satanga is going to be his number one receiver, leading the team in all categories. 49 grabs, 692 yards, and 5 scores. Deion Burks out of the slot's a guy you're going to look to get the ball to at least 5, 6, 7 times as he can make guys miss an open field. And then Jaron Kanik at tight end, the converted linebacker, has been so good for them this year. He's been very good when it comes to being a blocker, but strong hands catches for first downs. This guy can take a hit or two downfield. He's going to have to come up with some crucial catches here on the road. This Alabama secondary, it's never really been a problem for them. They occasionally give up some big plays. They've snagged 8 picks compared to 7 touchdowns. The quick pass game, though, is an area that can potentially be vulnerable for them. And I think downfield passing against these corners who occasionally like to give up some big plays is something to monitor. Good news is Damani Jackson doesn't really play that much in favor of Dejon Lee now. That was a great move by the coaching staff to get Jackson off the field. Xavier Brown's been having a pretty good year as well. So these corners are probably going to do pretty well when it comes to holding up. Deshaun Jones, those are the guy they're going to look to attack in the slot. These safeties, if they're going to sit and cover 2 looks, it's going to be hard to attack them. Keon Sabb, Bray Hubbard, who's elite against the run, very good in coverage. He's a hard hitter, forces a lot of turnovers. It's going to be hard for them to attack with Oklahoma, Nick. That's what they're going to look to do, stay ahead of the sticks, and they're going to look to attack with a quick pass game. I think vertically, though, they can pick up some yards after catch with these receivers. Satanga did it against Ole Miss. Burks has done it throughout his career. So there's going to be opportunities for them to thrive, but Oklahoma's probably not going to want to live in too many third and longs, even though Mateer can make plays from anywhere on the plane and any yardage to go, and he can make you pay.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting passing attack for Oklahoma that has shown some positive moments, but has some issues. Obviously, Mateer was banged up a little bit. His offense is a total 28.9 points per game, about 5.5 yards per play, 11 touchdowns to 7 interceptions for the offense as a whole. Stang is a really good player, right? He's been really solid, about 700 yards receiving, 14.1 yards per grab, 5 scores. Burks can be involved as well. Keontae Lewis has not been bad for the team. Kanik, the tight end, has been okay. But this Alabama secondary is getting better. I like what this unit's been able to do. They've been really solid. Have those 8 interceptions to 7 passing touchdowns given up. They stood up strong in the red zone opportunities against LSU, which I thought was really solid. Dejon Lee, obviously, he has jumped in. He has been really good. He had some really key moments in the red zone against LSU. He was really solid in that game. 23 total tackles, 4.5 TFLs, 3 pass breakups for him. He's been able to get on the field, obviously, which I think is really solid considering the fact that he's replacing a guy that you were talking about earlier, Damani Jackson, who's a complete disaster and has not worked out at all. I really don't know why. He's not providing anything. I hope he doesn't get on the field the rest of the season. Bray Hubbard has been really solid for this team, 49 total tackles, 3 interceptions, 5 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles. He's been an absolute monster there. He's been really solid. I think he's been good. Xavier Brown has proven to be a really solid asset for the secondary as well. They moved him around and got him involved. Keon Sabb, same deal. I like what I'm seeing out of this Alabama secondary. I think they're getting more comfortable coming to their own here. If they can force Mateer a little uncomfortable, put pressure on him from those edge rushers there, they'll make him turn the ball over once or twice, get some good field position for this offense. If you can put pressure on Mateer, I think there's a big recipe for success there for this Alabama defense. Put pressure on Mateer, make him uncomfortable early on. That could certainly go a long way for this Alabama defense.
They're definitely going to look to utilize a lot of QB run in this one and control clock, try to wear down the defense and quiet the crowd. So I think it's a simple game plan for the Sooners. Who to the other side of things, the Alabama offense on this Sooner defense for Alabama. This is a team that's completely strong head by its pass game. Ty Simpson having an elite year. Pretty flawless, 67% comp rate, 273 yards per game, 21 touchdowns. The 1 interception was on 4th down. So pretty much a wash there. Last 2 games, though, this passing attack is just seemingly stalled out at times against South Carolina. Completed only 56%. Against LSU, only 60%. They came alive on the road against the Gamecocks in the 4th quarter. And then against LSU, they really didn't do much in the second half, only 3 points in that one. Kind of been a theme this year for Alabama, Nick, as they start hot. They always have a touchdown right before half. They convert a 4th and goal for a touchdown at some point in the game. I mean, these are things that they're doing, and they're pretty remarkable at doing them, but we got to be more consistent than just relying on a 2-minute offense and a 4th down conversion. They didn't do anything against Georgia in the second half. Missouri, it was a strugglesome effort as well. We ended up with 200 pass yards in that one where it seemed like they were attacking them very well. The quick pass game for Bama was great. I think when they're in 3rd and long, this is a spot they thrive in. I mean, they're just so good at staying on the field, 48% on the year. Ty's been great at anticipation in zone and attacking downfield in that intermediate range. That's what makes Alabama incredibly difficult to get off the field. And for Oklahoma, their secondary, I considered it to be the weaker part of this defense coming into the year. I thought their D-line and their front seven would eat, and they certainly have this year. The last couple of games not been great for this secondary against Ole Miss. They really struggled to get off the field. Thought in the second half they played better, but again, it was a little bit too little too late. And then against Tennessee, they were picking them apart with big chunk plays, but their defense came up with some big interceptions and some big sacks, created a lot of pressure to kind of offset that. The thing about the Ole Miss game, for example, is that they had Trinidad Chambliss, who offers that dual threat nature, and that's really hard to scheme against that right and hard to make stops. And Alabama, even though Simpson's got a little bit of mobility, it's not even close to the same matchup. And I think the Sooner defense with a week off to prepare Nick's going to be better than we've seen them the last couple weeks in the secondary.
It is a very interesting matchup here. This Alabama offense, leaves a little bit desired, certainly in the second half, but overall, this is still a really strong offense. Almost 33 points per game so far this season. Ty Simpson has been absolutely phenomenal. He has only that one interception and the 21 touchdowns. He has looked incredible under center, 67% comp rate, 2,400 yards passing. In the conversation for the Heisman Trophy for a reason. He had two incredible throws at the end of the first half against LSU, including the touchdown to Ryan Williams, where he placed that ball perfectly where only his receiver could get it in between two defenders there to score a touchdown for Alabama. That was a crucial touchdown that ultimately ended up winning them the game when it was all said and done. Simpson has been phenomenal. He's been incredible under center, and I really liked what he's been able to do. He spread the ball out to numerous targets. German Bernard's been his top target, 600 yards receiving, 6 scores. He's been great. Ryan Williams, obviously a bit frustrating at times, right? Maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit. There's been some issues with him, but he's had some great moments, like that catch against LSU that I just mentioned, some other moments in that game where he was really solid, 528 yards receiving and 4 scores. You can uncork the deep ball to him at any moment in time. They've been trying that a couple of times against South Carolina and LSU, where it just fell short, or Simpson underthrew one or two of those balls. He underthrew one to Latavius Brooks, who was really solid so far this season. Horton's been getting involved as well. He's got 5 touchdowns, and he overthrew another one. I believe he overthrew it to Horton at one point, just slightly. If he can get those balls right on target, which he's still figuring that out slightly, getting that situation to put himself in a good spot, if he can just get that perfectly there, get that deep ball, that could really be a big opportunity to attack this Oklahoma secondary. That is a good unit, but they have shown some weaknesses at times. They're a solid unit overall. I like some of the pieces they have. Certainly, I think Robert Spears-Jennings has been really good. 43 total tackles for this team. He's been solid. Peyton Bowen has been really good in the secondary, 4 pass breakups. Same thing with Gilroy. He has 6 pass breakups, 26 total tackles. This is an opportunity, though, to get those weapons involved, use some of those different plays, open up the playbook a little bit here. They use some of those different plays towards the end of the game against South Carolina, and that worked out well, getting the motion involved, kind of figuring out different ways to make things happen for this team. I like what this offense can do. I think this has a good matchup advantage for Alabama against this Oklahoma secondary.
Yeah, guys like Eli Bowen, Corden Gilroy are going to have big responsibilities in the secondary. They're hopeful to have Gentry Williams back as well. You alluded to a great player in Robert Spears-Jennings, who is great when it comes to filling gaps against the run. This is a secondary, I think, with a week to prepare. With Venables at the helm, you got to anticipate they're going to play better. For Oklahoma, it's really going to come down to how their defensive line plays. This is the nation's best defensive line, in my opinion, if not number one, top 3. R. Mason Thomas is a phenomenal edge rusher. Taylor Wine, coming off the other edge, has been impressive this year. On the interior, they're incredibly loaded. Grayson Halton, Jaden Jackson, David Stone. A lot of power here. This is a great run defense. Alabama doesn't possess much of a threat on the ground anyway, so it's really going to come down to Oklahoma being able to create pressure, and then Alabama being able to convert on those third downs and throw the football downfield. I think Oklahoma, Nick, when it comes to this pass rush, you're going up against an offensive line for Alabama that's seemingly continuing to get better on a weekly basis. Caden Proctor is a beast at left tackle. Right tackle is even starting to be a little bit better for them on a weekly basis. Will Conforme is a guy that's inconsistent, but has been playing better football. A lot of size on the interior. In Alabama, they just cannot run the ball at all, Nick. They can't even do it in short yardage. And that's why they can't win these games by a whole lot of points, because they're not wearing down defenses. They're not able to hold leads that are exponentially big because they can't, make defenses tired, and they can't grind on these opponents, and that's a big problem for Oklahoma for Alabama, that is, and against the Sooners, who have an incredibly deep defensive line. You want to make them tired, and if you can't run the ball, they're going to be fresh the entire game, and that's going to cause problems.
Yeah, clearly Alabama's lack of a rushing attack is a big problem. You'll certainly hear that from me. I'll admit that, right? They can't run the ball. It's a problem. 3.5 yards per attempt, 10 scores in the season. They cannot run the ball. Jam Miller has not been able to figure it out. which is disappointing. 321 yards, 2 touchdowns for him, 3.6 yards per attempt. That's all he's got. Kevin Riley has below 200 yards. Daniel Hill is just over 100 yards. They cannot run the ball. It's certainly a problem, and it's clearly a problem, right? Can they find a way to figure it out? I don't think so against a vaunted Oklahoma run defense. 2.49 yards per attempt given up. They are so strong. They have so many great pieces on the defensive line that are just absolutely incredible and very difficult to stop. With Armeza Thomas leading the way, 9.5 TFLs and 6.5 sacks for him. He's certainly going to put some pressure. The O-line has been really good for Alabama. I like with pieces that they have stepped up. Even right tackle, which has been an issue so far this season, has found some improvements as of late to be a little bit better here. I think the other four pieces have been absolutely phenomenal all season and have really stood up strong, giving Ty Simpson some time in the pocket. If Oklahoma get pressure on Ty Simpson, that will cause some problems. He's had 2 fumbles getting hit, one against Missouri, one against LSU, that he certainly has to try and protect the ball a little bit better there. He wants to work on that. I know he's trying to work on that with the coaches to be a little bit better there, trying to make sure he doesn't have that happen. Obviously, Alabama's got to find a rushing attack at some point. I don't think they're going to be able to, but they keep winning without that, and it seems to be something that's definitely not helpful. But they're still finding a way to win games, just wanting to get the job done. This is not a team you'll be able to rejuvenate your rushing attack against, so I don't think there's even really a necessary need to try and run the ball here. You're going to have to beat this team through the air. I think Alabama can beat Oklahoma through the air, but that's kind of the script here. They're going to have to just attack this secondary, attack some of those weak spots in the secondary. They're not going to be able to win this game by running the ball. They got to just find a way to put points on the board through the air, attack this Oklahoma secondary, and really play to Ty's strength. Get a lot of jet sweeps involved, get some motion involved, do some different things to kind of keep this defense on its toes, throw them off a little bit here. I think that's certainly got to be the script for Ryan Grubb and Cohen offense.
I definitely think for Oklahoma that their linebacking group is a unit that's progressed weekly. Owen Heineke's been great. Kip Lewis as well. Kobe McKenzie should be back for this game. I think that their ability to be successful in nickel packages is great for Oklahoma. Kendall Daniels out there in the slot. He's really good against the run, very good in coverage. That's going to give them abilities to match up with Alabama. I think the Crimson Tide, though, definitely need to look to take some more deep shots against these guys. And then the pass defense of the last couple of games has definitely been a problem. But I think Venables is going to go back to the drawing board. They're going to look to implement some different coverages here when it comes to rolling and matching these, these zone beaters that Alabama's going to look to draw up. Where they love to attack the middle of the field. And again, they're tough on third down. Should be a great chess match overall. What are the final thoughts on the prediction? Alabama's looking to get revenge on the team that knocked them out of the CFP last year when it looked like Bama was going to cruise to potentially a top seed because they would have made the SEC championship game. And then all that disappeared in a flash, Nick, and they weren't even close. It was a blowout in Norman. Very upsetting game for a lot of people, including guys like yourself and even me. I had money on the game, and you're a fan of the program. So it was a very upsetting game, right, all around. Oklahoma took everything from them. They're going to look to knock the Sooners effectively out of the college football playoff. My biggest gripe of Alabama is I just don't think they're very impressive. And I know the fans keep attacking me for it, but week after week, they just don't seem to ever be that impressive. They probably should have lost to South Carolina, weren't all that great against LSU. The Tigers had to make mistakes in the red zone just for them to win that game barely by 2 possessions where they didn't do anything in the second half on offense. And that seems to be a problem this year. I think that's just who they are. They're not that good in the second half. The offense seems to cap themselves out. And if they don't have those fourth down conversions or those 2-minute drives at the end of the half, what truly are they? I think Oklahoma can put a lot of pressure on them on defense with their defensive line and their linebackers. I'm definitely torn about how the secondary will play, but I imagine they're not going to play as bad as they have the last 2 games, right? Could totally be wrong, but that's fine. I'll put some cards on the table that says that the Sooners will play good on defense, and I think Mateer in this rushing attack will do enough to get a lead and hold it. I'm going to take Oklahoma on the road here, Nick. I think this is a great defensive line. They're going to do their thing, and I think Mateer with a week off, really for this entire team is beneficial, but he's probably going to be, again, returning to his form that we saw in September. That's going to lead to a lot of playmaking for the Sooners. I'm going to take them to get the road upset, and it'll shake up the SEC.
Obviously, as an alumnus of Alabama and a fan, I hope this team finds a way to put up a strong performance at home against this Oklahoma team, the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year. A lot of that loss I do put on Milroe, who's not under center. I think Ty Simpson is playing significantly better than Jalen Milroe was, and Ty Simpson looks very confident in the pocket. The offense has been disappointing in the second half. I think Ryan Grubb has been kind of limiting the offense. They've been playing really conservative, just trying to protect the lead, which I don't think is a smart strategy. They should go on, try and step on teams and really put some points on the board. They've not been doing that, which is weird. I don't really understand that whole philosophy here. So if this is a close game, I'd be curious to see what that looks like here. I think they should really let the offense just continue playing how they're playing, throughout the entire game, play a full 60. I don't really understand that, thought process, but it's been a little weird. You can certainly watch that, though. The play calling gets conservative in the second half. In some of those games, they have been leading as of late. I trust Ty Simpson to attack this Oklahoma secondary and put some points on the board, put some pressure on them. Alabama won't be able to run the ball, but that's fine. They've been able to get it done without a rushing attack so far this season. I think they'll be just fine in that regard here. I think the Alabama, defense can really put some pressure on Mateer, make him uncomfortable, really knock him around a little bit, force a turnover to get some good field position here. I like what Alabama can do. I think this Alabama team's in a really good spot. Obviously, if Oklahoma loses this game, they are, for all intent and purposes, not going to be in the college football playoff this year, which is certainly disappointing for Sooners fans. Although I think the team is still playing really solid football. Alabama win would certainly put them in the driver's seat for the college football playoff as they really look down the schedule in a really good spot. They have SCS team the week after, and then obviously Auburn is looming off in the distance here. I think Alabama has a really solid team. They've been playing really good football here. The defense is getting better throughout the season. I think the offense obviously still has some issues with the running the ball, but I think the passing attack is absolutely phenomenal. And they have a good opportunity to attack a secondary for Oklahoma that I think is still just a little bit weak here. Very curious to see how this goes down. A very key game in the SEC.
So for today's episode, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.